ما بقدرش تبات الليل يبات صوتك تمشي ونسهر ما نمشي يلي ما بتسهرش ليلة يا حبيبي
Candlestick from Jerusalem, but I can't find my lighter, of course. Anyhow, so we'll have a virtual light to the purpose of our Zoom Palestine meetings is to bring light onto the situation of Palestine, to enlighten the hearts of people who care about Palestine, and to try to bring change through both the discussion of the political issues, but also with the arts, because the only way things are going to change is through a change of hearts. And politics seldom changes people's hearts, but the arts, poetry, music, dance, painting, that's what changes the heart. So that's when maybe we can have some change. So I look forward to being a part. Let's try to change the hearts of people and the minds of people on Palestine. And today we're very fortunate to have the wonderful Farid Bitar, who I met him actually by accident. And you know, in the world, there's nothing as accidents, right? Things were meant to be. Farid, I don't know if you remember how you met me. I was looking for a parking place on Christopher Street, and I was terrified because I've gotten so many tickets, and it's such a psycho situation. I was coming back from work or whatever, it was the evening, and I found a spot, but I didn't know whether it was okay. And I saw the door of this church open, and I heard all this interesting stuff, and I heard Arabic, and I had been living in Jordan, and I was like shocked to find hearing some Arabic on Christopher Street, and music and people who seemed to be speaking very passionately. So I went into this church, keeping an eye on my car, expecting to get a ticket any minute. And there was Farid reading his poetry. And I was just spellbound. And I said, the heck with the car, I don't care. I have to listen to this guy. And it was so powerful and so moving. And then I ran out to the car to see if I had a ticket yet. And I said, no, I have to go back and talk to this guy. And then I ran back in, and he had finished his session, and had gone to the back. And then I introduced myself, and he gave me his card, and the rest is history. And we became very good friends. And he came and stayed with me in Jordan, where I arranged a poetry reading for him when he had come to the first time in Jerusalem, 20 years or whatever. He'll tell you his story. But anyhow, I don't want to keep speaking. And we're also fortunate to have Steve Bloom. Thank you, Steve, for joining us and sharing some of your poetry. Where are you located, Steve?
I'm in Brooklyn.
Oh, good. I almost was in Brooklyn. I was going to visit my grandkids there, but with the weather and then having to do the Zoom meeting, I said, no, because it's snowing again here. I thought, the heck with it. What part of Brooklyn are you in?
If you know where Brooklyn College is,
I do. Yeah.
Go south on Flatbush Avenue to Avenue K, and you're a block away from where I live.
Yeah. Do you know Thomas Cox in Brooklyn?
I don't know Thomas Cox.
Oh my God, I have to get you guys together. He's very involved in a big peace group in Brooklyn, and he has spent a lot of time in the Middle East, and he was in Jordan at an artist symposium with me, and he's a great guy. So he's somebody else, and I see Kelvin coming on. And George Wallace, thank you so much for joining us. And Stephanie, thank you Hi, how are you?
Great.
And Nad Najjar, and I see Kelvin here. So we have a really lovely group. And the gentleman poet from India is supposed to join us. I hope he manages. So, Farid, what we want to know is what is the situation? Why are poets being thrown into prison in Palestine? And how many are in there? And what are their stories? What's going on?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
First, I want to thank you for having me. And your story about Christopher Street is different than my story. I met you at Felt Forum. I'm at John Jay College, and you had just given a history lesson about Palestine and many other things. And then like, wow, this lady's amazing. I mean, I was getting like listening, but I'm like, wow, this is new to me. So when I came out, I approached you. I don't recollect you with the Christopher. Maybe it was another time.
We had met before. Yeah.
Then I said, then you said, can you come in later? I'm like, I don't really know you. And she said, no, I mean, I'm man. I'm like, what? I'm man. That's not here. So we started talking, and further down.
Sorry.
Sarah.
Sorry.
That started a relationship poetically and historically. I've never been to Jordan, ever. And I took an allegiance not to go to Jordan because of a political affiliation. In the 1970s, we had Black September, and some of my family got killed, and many other Palestinians were killed as well. But going back to the situation in the prisoners, Maher al-Akhras is the latest casualty of a hunger strike prisoner. He has been detained with no charges for I don't know how many days, and then he went on a hunger strike. You can hear this, yes?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they moved him from a prison to a hospital, and they tried to force feed him. And that didn't work because he refused. And there's still no charges. And 30 days and 40 days and 50 days passed. And then the movement started coming in. B'Tselem, the Ramallah Prisoners Club, all the people from Sweden, the USA.
B'Tselem is an Israeli group, right?
Yes, it's an Israeli human rights group.
Right, yeah.
And they are wonderful because they keep tabs on the Palestinian atrocities and whatever happens to them. And Israel is really not happy with B'Tselem. There's also Break the Silence, who they speak against Israeli soldiers who speak against what is going on after they serve in the military, that is. And I sat with some of them in Virginia Tech. And they do tell hair-raising stories. But going back to Maher al-Akhras, they had him chained to a bed. And his daughter would go there all the time to feed him, and he would refuse. She's 6 years old. And her name is Tuqa. And then it attracted the attention of many CNN and others. So there was a huge article on him on CNN. He was still refusing to eat, and the Israelis are refusing to let him go. Still no charge. And finally, something kicked in. And on the 103rd day, they came into an agreement, and they are going to let him go, but not free. So he started eating, and the picture of his daughter feeding him really left me very scarred. Like I didn't sleep like 2-3 days maybe, and I wrote him a poem. But back 3 years earlier, I wrote a poem about 1,800 prisoners on a hunger strike. So I connected the two poems together and I dedicated it to him and I sent it to the West Bank and Gaza. And I am very surprised he didn't die, but he was determined for the love of the land to do this. And it's a very, very heavy price to pay. I'm an artist. I don't see myself there. I mean, when I fast even, it's very hard. But his resilience and the love of land moved me, and I wrote him a poem. I'm going to read it at the end of my talk. Another situation in the homeland right now, they're keeping a very tight lid on raids in the West Bank. They confiscate people 3, 4 in the morning. They demolish rooms. They don't apologize. They go into the West Bank, which is Area A, under the Palestinian Authority, and I don't know why they're there. But Mahmoud Abbas doesn't stop anything. They take children age 10, 12, 13, and they threaten the family. No charges. No charges. If you read stories, and B'Tselem puts out stories, it is unbelievable of what the IDF is doing and what Israel is doing while they're going to the United Arab Emirates and Sudan and other places to make peace or whatever it is. They're forgetting us. They're forgetting the Palestinians, and we are just lost in a land that is ours. And I want to talk about my uncle, Kayed, who was tortured in the jails of the Israelis. He was a PFLP, Palestine Liberation Front, and he was tortured 12 years. And when he came out, his back was broken. And his nails were gone. And they raped his wife in front of him. And he died a year later. He came to New York. And I met him. He's a hero to me. He died about 15 years ago. The situation back home is dire straits. I call a lot of my people just to see if they're alive. Nobody seems to know. Nobody wants to know. But a lot of people know, like you, Jacqui, like Steve. Like I want to talk about Frank Romano. Frank Romano is another hero to me. And his resilience is amazing. I mean, going to Khan al-Ahmar and holding out, and he was holding out for, I don't know, a few months until he was lured to Khan al-Ahmar. A French-American lawyer who was arrested, lured by Le Monde, which is a newspaper in France, and it was all a scam, and they moved in on him. And I read that poem, Striker, in front of the Israeli consulate with him. He was there. And he moves me. And he said, no, I want to thank you. And I'm like, no, I want to thank you. He goes, you stop doing that. And I told him, stop thanking me. It's my home. I do things for my land. That's where we're at with the prisoners. But overall, there's about 2,200 prisoners rotting in the jails of the Israelis. Over the years, since 1967, about 500,000 people were arrested and released, tortured, destroyed. I was there in the first Intifada in 1988, and I used to be a translator accountant. One time they raided a village, and all of the men had broken bones, and that's Yitzhak Rabin, the one that gave him a Nobel Prize. He ordered to break all the bones of the men in 1988, and I wrote a long poem about that. We're at a point of neglect. Palestine is never going to be erased. And I'm going to read you, with your permission, a striker. I can read it? Jacqui?
Yes, please.
Striker. I am at the hunger of days, living on salt water. I am shackled in my gallows. My thoughts are determined. My will is unbreakable. My determination is unfettered. My defiance unstoppable. My jailer will never conquer me. Wondering who's over and who's under, deprived under bogus detention. No crime committed. I will resist. I will resist. I will tell Zion to succumb to my demands, and they are simple. Behind the walls, behind barbed wires, my ass is on fire. In the heat of the Negev desert, no one knows I exist. Held in solitary confinement. I'm sure my wife, the fields, the beaches are waiting for me. You can chain me, confiscate me, rape me. I am a prisoner of choice, not necessity. I will sacrifice my body. I am Bobby Sands, Nelson Mandela. I am Ismail Abu Salama. My demands are simple. I already said that. To use the phone, to visit my family, to have better food. I deserve to be treated as human. I demand it. 1,800 political prisoners on a hunger strike from April 17th till May 28, 2017. And is dedicated to the 72 Palestinian political prisoners who died as a result of torture by the Israeli prison authorities. As we speak, there is 355 Palestinians in jails with no charge, 2 minors, one is 12 and one is 14. That's all I want to say about the prisoners for now, unless somebody else wants to say something. I don't know, Jackie, maybe you want to say something.
Yeah, what about, you gave me that wonderful bag. I should have gotten it and showed it to everybody with the poetry written by the female prisoner, who I think was recently released. Can you tell us about her?
Darine Tatur wrote, "Resist my people, resist them." I had invited her to come to the show.
Well, we plan to have another event with a lot of people reading poetry about Palestine. Maybe she can make the next one. Why do the Israelis arrest poets?
Because we're more dangerous to them than people with weapons. Mahmoud Darwish is a huge example. And before him, there is Tuqan, Fadwa Tuqan, who was the mother of Mahmoud Darwish in poetry, because our words will last. They can kill Hamas members, they can kill PLO members, they can kill, but they cannot kill our words. They last. I get frustrated, but I feel my children are my books, my words, my dedication to my people.
Well, what's their reason? If a young woman is writing poetry, what is the reason for them to go and arrest her? What's the reason?
Because they're biased. When the Israelis, and they can curse us, they do whatever they want in the Knesset, they say whatever we say. They say we're murderers, we're animals, we're this. Darine Tatur is an Israeli citizen, and her words were just words. And she received 3 years jail sentence. I was there in Nazareth the one day before she was sentenced. And I hugged her and I cried. And she said, "Don't cry. Palestine will come back and it's worth it. My jailers, I'm their jailer." And I remember her telling me that. She is still under a lot of restrictions. She's in Sweden as we speak. She got, 3 prizes already from Europe, and she's courageous. Darine Tatur, resist my people, resist them. A book came out, A Blade of Grass, She's an anthology of 12 Palestinian poets, and she's one of them. And I'm one of them. And Mahmoud Darwish is another one of them. And there's another poet who's in Saudi Arabia who wrote a poem, and the Saudis jailed him. And they were going to cut off his head.
Oh.
They commuted his sentence down because people got involved. And he's in the book. So that's all I have to say about the prisoners, because I want to speak about better days and better things to come. Unless somebody wants to say anything about the prisoners, I think maybe Steve wants to read, call their names. Steve?
Yes, I have to unmute. Are you ready for me?
Yes. Yes, we are.
Okay. New Year. This poem is called New Year, Gaza, 2008, 2009. Call out the names of the dead so that we may mourn. Call out the names of the dead. Call out the names of their killers so that we may rage as we mourn. Call out the names of their killers. Call out the names of those who march in protest so that we can give thanks as we rage and mourn. Call out the names of those who march in protest. Call out the names peace, justice, freedom, Palestine, so that we may hope as we give thanks, rage, and mourn. Call out the names peace, justice, freedom, Palestine. And when the time has come to call out the names of all those who remain silent as we are calling out these names, let us pray that yours will not be among them.
I love this poem.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
But Steve, maybe you want to say something about Palestine or the prisoners or anything.
Well, I don't know much about the prisoners, I have to admit. It's not a story I've followed closely. But the question of Palestine has been one that I've paid attention to all my life. And I remember in the 60s, when I was growing up, there were so many people that I knew who thought of Israel as a liberation struggle. They thought of Zionism as a liberation struggle. That was the mentality that I was taught. And it was such a shock to me when I learned what Zionism really is all about, that I've never forgotten it, and I have to, I've made a priority of supporting the Palestinian struggle my whole life. So that's me and my story of Palestine. There's so much to talk about that it's hard to know what specifics to talk about. But the reality is that if you want to win your liberation in this world, and I put that liberation in quotation marks, you really have two choices. You can identify with the world's oppressed and be part of the struggle to liberate all of humanity. Unfortunately, Israel made a choice to become part of the oppressor and to win its liberation that way, which makes it the enemy of everyone who wants to struggle for the liberation of humanity. And so, as a political activist, I've been active. As a poet, I've been writing poetry and doing the best I can to contribute to the struggle.
Steve, what was it that changed your mind? Since you grew up in the context of people being favorable to Zionism, how did you have this enlightenment?
It's hard to say. It's a little vague in my own mind how it happened. There was not a eureka moment. but I remember the 6-Day War. I was working at a summer camp as a counselor, and the people who owned the camp were, left-wing Jews, but also supporters of Zionism. And I made some favorable comment about, the Arab side of the war, just because I had some instinct that said there's something going on here that requires us to pay attention. And I got into this. I ended up having to leave the camp and resign. I was purged from the camp as a result of having made this little comment. And I guess that was the point at which I really started paying attention to what was going on and learning little by little. When was the 6-Day War? It was 60 what? Who knows? Who has the date in their head?
5th, 6th, 7th.
Yeah.
I was 6 years old. Jacqui?
I think that part of the problem, I think what your story reflects a big part of the problem. I have Jewish family, and I've been purged in silence from ever mentioning anything about the topic because people, it's a topic that it just makes people crazy. And given the background of the Holocaust and everything, I mean, I lost family members, and so I'm aware of, but the reaction is just so irrational. I mean, there's no dialogue, there's no way to discuss anything. I have instances of it all the time. I've given up with the older members of the family, but the younger members of the family, except for my left-wing cousin, who's a communist socialist up in Canada, the rest, the younger ones are more open, but people of my generation forget it. It's very sad, and these are good people. These are really lovely, wonderful people, but this is a blind spot. It's impossible. So that's why I feel that, to try to argue with anybody is impossible, that it's the heart that has to be changed, and the arts are the way I think of doing it. So listening to poetry, and Farid, you're going to share some of your art with us.
Can I just make a quick comment on that thought, Jacqui? Because the reality is that minds are changing, and minds are changing, I think, because people went kind of intellectual experience I went through. If you look back 10, 20 years, you couldn't talk about an anti-Zionist position on the U.S. left. You were a non-person.
Yeah.
Today, most radical leftists in this country are anti-Zionists. Yeah. So there's been a huge shift, and the arts certainly contribute to it. I agree with that, but I wouldn't rule out having discussions. But it's more people's experience with the issue, what they see happening, than the arguments themselves.
Yeah.
The other thing that I wanted to add is, the people you talk about in the Communist Party, that was my father too. And the milieu I came out of, I grew up in, they accepted an awful lot of stuff about the Soviet Union, which today we look back and we say, how could people have accepted any of this? So there was a whole mindset, and I think the Zionist piece of it, the Soviet Union supported the creation of the State of Israel. I think the Zionist piece of it is part of that whole, we can't question the party line mentality. Whereas younger people are, there's less of that in the younger generation.
That's a very intelligent analogy. I never put that together, but that's certainly, it's the party line mentality. I have a friend of mine who's 101, lives down the hall, Edith Steffen. She's a filmmaker. We freed her after months of struggle. We freed her from the residence she was in. She's back home, and she's working on her 7th film now. And she was a communist back in her young days, but because she was an artist and an independent thinker, she would ask questions. So of course she got thrown out of the Communist Party. So I think that it's It's the party line business. It's, you know, being willing to see the cracks. And I think you're right. There's certainly cracks now in Zionism where, you know, you have great groups like Jewish Voice for Peace and Ruach and all kinds of rabbis for human rights, all kinds of groups that are speaking out, but they have to be supported. They have to be supported. And I think with the new administration, it's very important for all of us to send emails and put pressure on because this is a critical time if we're going to see any change. You know, I'm planning a demonstration New Year's Eve in front of the Israeli consulate if anybody wants to join me. Last Christmas, I walked by myself around Federal Plaza here, protesting children in cages. But this year, I think I'm going to do a protest in front of the Israeli consulate on New Year's Eve about Palestine, what's going on. You know, every time the things I'm reading are just so awful. What Farid said is we're in a real crisis. Farid, you want to share? I have a screen share. I can show some of your art.
Can you while you do that? I can play. I'm a drummer.
Let me see
Yeah,
if it
go ahead.
work.
Wait, I'm a drummer. I'm gonna read you and play on the drums.
Okay, great, fabulous.
Okay.
Let me see.
I have this painting. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, we can. Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah.
This is a political painting. It shows Palestine in clear lines. And then it shows the British in a messed up lines. I don't know if you can see the top line. The top one here, over here, up here is Palestine. And the colors of the flag are clear. But the British Empire, who donated my land, became a little not clear. I am very disturbed, and my older brother as well, with how the British did what they did to us. I go there, I don't know how many times, and one time I was in Heathrow Airport, and the guy said, "Why do you come here?" And I said, "I am here to visit my father's land." And he goes, "What was that again? Say that one more time." I say, "You know, I came from my mother's land, and I'm here in my father's land." He brought me an MI6 back in 1987, and they interrogated me for 6 hours. And they asked me again, "Say why you're here." I say, "My father's land." He goes, "You Palestinians are too smart for your own good." 6 hours, they wanted to know what I did. And I kept saying, "You are my father's land." And they were not happy about that. And MI6 is like the Mossad. They put me in a room for 6 hours. And he said, "Do not come back to your father's land." I said, "I will come back to my father's land." And I went back in 2017 with my book, Screaming Olives. And that's what the British do. They don't want to know. They know. A lot of British know, but they don't want to know. So I get funny about things sometimes because it hurts. My mother is British. She has a British passport, and I objected to that all the time. So you can hear me?
Yes. Do you see your painting?
Yes, I see it.
I did a screen share with the paintings you sent me on Zoom.
Okay.
So I can let me
just
do a full screen. Yeah. Okay. Here's another one for read.
Palestine, and the rest of it is the British land, the British flag, but it really is not. And it's oil on canvas.
When you read the documents about the British role, it's really horrible. And Winston Churchill was awful. You know, the British behavior in the whole Palestine situation is just
Jacqui?
abominable.
Jacqui?
Yeah.
Can I say something? I've recently been listening. I think it's Wallace. I think it was Wallace who was with Truman or before Truman.
Yeah.
There was this speech. Did you watch it? It was from 1961. They were talking about how the Zionists influenced the British and the Americans and how America got into the war. And basically, you know, the British government, if they had sat together, you see, Churchill was in with them and he was obviously heavily funded by them. But the Rothschilds basically had so much influence behind the scenes from the beginning. And because the Jewish lobby already at that time had the press between the First World War, Second World War, the Germans suddenly became an enemy to the Americans, whereas before Germany and America were very, very, very close.
Yeah.
What had happened is that they made a deal. They said, we will bring America in to make you to win this war. I can't remember if it's the first or the second or both, but we want Palestine. So Palestine was the negotiating bloc for the Zionists to bring America into the war.
The war, right. Yeah, there's so much that we're still learning about. By the way, Mona Nafa Nazal, thank you for joining us. And Subhagashar Das and Zayed Al-Najjar. Hi, Zayed. How are you? Thank you. And George, glad to see you still here. So, Farid, you want to talk about this painting?
I talked about it. Oh, this one?
All right. Yeah.
These are African colors. And to me, Africa has been also annihilated by the French and the British. They're clear lines. They have their countries. They get through hunger, they whatever, etc. The oil, Nigeria, and etc. But they're clearer lines than our lines. Our lines are fading. What green line and what this line, and they keep talking about 1967 lines, and they're crisscrossing it, and they're talking about the West Bank. They don't even want to give it back. They gave us maybe 1% of Palestine, which is baloney. They give us and they take back, but the African lines are clear. And the lines are bordered, and Zimbabwe was a Zimbabwe, or it used to be Rhodesia. South Africa is a wonderful country. But Africa, to me, is another example that we should follow. And Nelson Mandela is a hero to me because he delivered South Africa.
Yeah.
He didn't even like his own wife because she was corrupt. So to me, this is Africa on a clear lines.
Okay, next painting.
This is messed up. This is Palestine in chaos. Totally messed up. In the center, there's yellow, which is what the Israelis did to Gaza 3 times. They dropped phosphorus on Gaza, and they melted the babies away. We didn't say it. That doctor from Sweden said it. He was there in the second invasion, and he was treating melting babies that Israel used phosphorus that was given by the US. And yellow to me is very, very painful to do, but I do it. It was my older brother's idea when I did my second CD. He put yellow. I'm like, what the hell? There's no yellow in Palestine. He goes, you're an idiot. There's yellow everywhere in Palestine. I said, what is that? He goes, the phosphorus. It's yellow. Okay. Palestine lost.
And here's this painting.
This is a cheerful one. I like this painting. I didn't know what I was doing. And then I put tape.
Beautiful. That's really beautiful.
Thank you.
Really, that's... anybody would love to have that. Wow, that is amazing.
This one is my hope for Palestine.
It's lovely. Really.
It's lovely. Yeah, through the bars, you see this beautiful colors, a rainbow. It's like a rainbow behind the bars. Beautiful.
Such a perspective.
Yeah.
This is my hope for Palestine. And this is the stranger invading. In the center, there is a stranger. And he's monstrous. And to me, this is what Israel did to us. They moved in on us when we received them back in the 30s. And they had a plan since 1897. And the center is what they did to us. We invited the monster, and he took over our house. I am 40 years in exile. I cannot go home. They tell me Jerusalem is not my home. It is my home. This is a very, very, very concentrated painting. And Zion is in the center.
Very beautiful work, Farid. You have a new book of poetry coming out, right?
Yes, it's called Screaming Olives. If you can,
Let me
I can show you.
stop the share. Yeah. Okay. Screaming Olives. I love that title.
My older brother Mahmoud did the design.
Mm-hmm.
Telling him about the trees, and he said, "Tell me a little more. Tell me a little more." And then he sent me 20 sketches because the publisher wanted black and white is cheaper. And I'm like, okay, Andy Croft, you want black and white? I sent him 20 black and whites. I sent him one color, this one.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, bloody hell, I want that one. I'm like, what do you mean that one? I thought it was expensive. He said, no, I like it. I said, okay, ta-ta, bloody hell. So he picked that one as my cover.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Book talks about life. I am
When
tired
will
of
it be published? When will it be published?
June 2021.
Great.
Smokestack Books. It's my
I'll make sure I'm going to Amman in July, hopefully, and I'll make sure Books at Cafe has it in their bookstore. I'll alert them to it coming out. Yeah, I'll alert them.
I don't know. You remember what happened to the other books that went to Amman, never got there.
Well, that's because you sent them to the Jesuits. This one, the Books at Cafe, they'll get their books. They'll get their books.
This book is 61 poems.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in 61. It talks about life. I'm tired of talking about death. I want to talk about life. I want to talk about the 8 million people, Palestinians, who are living and still alive. We're not going to go back to the ghettos. We're not. We're going to be delivered. You mentioned about the artists. The artists will deliver a land. I know that. Das, how are you?
Is he going to read? Das, will you read a poem for us? Great. Read, finish what you're, finish your comments, and then we'll have Das join us.
I will finish about the book. I'm very hopeful about it. It's my 4th book of poetry. It talks about many, many, many things, but it talks about what right of return. We have that right. Israel created that right of return. When a Chicago, Poland, and Germany goes back to my homeland, that's not right of return. We have that right of return. They coined it on them. We have that right. They don't give us that right. We own it. We own it. I own it. I'm born in Jerusalem 7 generations back. I own it. Mahmoud Darwish owns Al-Barwa. He was born there. They refused to bury him in that town. We will always go back. I always go back. And my book talks about the trees. 1 million trees cut down to make room for another. Snipers and settlements. And they call it military zones. And then a settlement comes up. I'm done.
Okay, welcome, Eugene. Thank you for joining us. We've been, this has been so wonderful. I just want to make one comment. On YouTube, on my YouTube channel, I have 3 short films about the history of Jerusalem that I spent several years researching. And it's on the YouTube channel. And what I might do is some future programs here is show epics of the film. But one of the really incredible, amazing things that I came across was Herschel's early comments about his idea of Zionism, and this will blow you away. Nobody knows this. I don't know how I found it. I can't even remember where I found it, but I did put it in my film. His vision was that the Zionists would create a utopian state where Jews, Muslims, Christians would all live together in peace and harmony with full rights and full respect, and that they would create a utopian state of justice and harmony and equality that would become a model for other nations in the world. When I read Herschel's writings about this, I was totally blown away because it does not place Jews in any position of privilege. It does not talk about invasion. And one of the things he talks about, you cannot steal land from people. You cannot force people. It was totally shocking for me to read this early writings of Herschel. I urge you to, if you have a chance, to research this, because it will blow your mind, to read about what the idea of Israel was in the beginning, was this equalitarian utopian state with no privileges for Jews, but everybody to be treated equally. So, Mr. Das, are you with us and ready to read some poetry? Hello?
Das?
Das, are you there? Or maybe, Das, are you there? Not
Maybe
yet.
someone else will.
Maybe Kelvin, do you want to, Sarah, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to say something that years ago, I was teaching at a design school in Israel, and I went to a museum show, and it had photographs and little stories of early settlers in Israel. And they were all, I'm sure they were all dead by the time the show was put up. And they were heartbroken about Israel becoming a world power, because that's not, it's exactly what you were talking about. That's not what they hoped for it. They hoped for everybody, these early settlers, for everybody to live together. They didn't hope for Israel to oppress Palestinians. And it was very moving. I remember it because they were more heartbroken. These people who settled Israel in the 30s who went there were heartbroken about what had happened. I don't know how many people saw that exhibit, but it made a very big impression on me. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Sarah. I think that confirms, what my research into the early days, where the vision was taken over by the militarists, by the colonial mentality.
But there was also
the
oil in the
colonial
region.
Mentality.
And oil makes a lot of difference as well.
Kelvin, you want to read a poem, a short poem for us?
I'd
While
love
we're ready for Mr. Das to return.
I'd love to. I'll read the shortest one, okay?
Okay.
It's a little bit different perspective to Farid, although I am so much with Farid, you won't know. But
why can't we see you?
Why? Because I hit my webcam.
Put and I want to see my.
Oh, you can see me.
I can get to see my Amon cats. There you are. Okay, much better. Okay, this is my wonderful roommate from Amman.
My facial identity.
My cat's alive there.
Spying on the Zoom. Hi. Okay. This is the second part of a poem series, and maybe sometime, if anybody ever wants, at some point I could read the long one, but it's about half an hour long. It's very deep, and it kind of came to me. But this was almost like, this was some of the things that I felt had to be included as well. And it came as the first postscript to the long poem. And I just called poem because, in a way, sometimes some kind of surge comes through to express something, and you have to put it into a form. And some people put it into art or poetry, but somehow you have to make this framework. So that was the closest framework that I could find is poem, as a way to put it across. And like Farid was saying, what I found about this, I'd read a poem called Ida Shamite by Dalia Shruji, is a Palestinian poet, and I wish she would come on and read, and she might. Let me see if I can talk to her for a future meeting. And the freedom of language that she used in her poem inspired me that, wow, you can actually say anything. You can convey anything. This is like Farid was saying, you're a journalist, you're caught up in the whole thing of what is a journalist. You're a politician, you're caught up with the whole protocol of what is a politician. But I think that art in some way has the possibility to go across all those boundaries of definition. And so that was basically the impulse behind, I can't explain, but anyway, this is called I Am the City of Peace. I am the city of peace. I've heard and seen every breath and sigh of the prayers within my walls, but only those which hold all within me as dear to them as I do are kept held within my stones. I called none here to harm or fight another. I am no one's capital proclaimed under any imperial empire's noisy pride or might. Soldiers and traitors have no sway over my sight. For I belong to those who truly love me and love the next to himself the same. As you treat the nameless guest, so shall I treat you. As you shelter and care for their young ones as your own, so shall I shelter and care for you as my own. I am no one's capital but our Creator's. I am the city of peace. I see the blasphemy of death and lethal arms borne, my compassion for the fear in the eyes of those who wield them, the sole reason I do not fall upon myself and crash upon them. And for the sake of those to come, those who will hearken to my name, I'm calling for the laying down of those arms for all of our peace. I see confused under confusions kept that way by those who should know better. I see miracles denied and profanities praised. I see oil drilling a week after claims for security and safety are made with pleas hiding in the dollars in their barren eyes, so close by as to pierce my soul. I see snakes disguised as leaders, but those with two tongues dig their own holes to fall within, for as Moses cast out serpents, surely he will do again. Should none in this world see, I see all, as our Father in heaven sees all. I will settle for nothing less than submission to his law. His law is peace and harmony. His law is equality. And the law is apology where we've done wrong, and forgiveness when actions prove that satisfactorily sincere. The law is not to judge another, for it itself is the judge enough. Or to rest until we've scoured our hearts with the torches of our prayers to shine where we've courted hatred or believed lies, we can heal those wounds with the same heart's understanding. And the law gives that mercy will be bestowed where mercy is called for. Oh, that my children would bow both down their heads and arise together to call aloud with one heart and one mind for freedom from the shackles of labels and the interests of their wars, and in burning the flags to shed and refuse the very same. I am the city of peace. I'm a place for prophets and saints, not for usury money changers and the president's double-faced offspring. Oh, those who would see that earthquakes ruminate from the very stones as my walls. And I'm calling all those who would hearken for the sake of my name to stand up for peace together, to earn the desert rainfall of my safety, protection, and grace. That the abomination of desolation will be kept from exiling all who have clung to the words of those claiming divine right to append my commandments, by which you should all agree, considering the commonality, and so walk within my walls as their walls. Do not kill, do not steal, do not cheat, do not bear false witness, do not covet another's home, and do not refuse the voice of the one who gives that life to us all. I am the city of peace.
Oh. Thank you, Kelvin. That was so moving. Very, very moving. Thank you, Kelvin.
I'm sorry.
It's very, very emotional. Yeah. No, I feel like crying. All my trips to Jerusalem been
Are you acting?
so painful.
Yes, Bob.
Okay, Kelvin. Good will win. Light will conquer darkness. That's what this week is about. Advent and the holidays. So the prophets that come, they come in darkness, but they bring light. So we're God's light. God doesn't have any hands, mouths, and stuff but ours. So we're the ones to bring light. Miss Das, would you be willing to read a poem for us, please? Can you unmute yourself? You're muted.
Yeah, I have been listening, and
Okay.
I came to know about the Palestinian condition of Palestine and the prisoners through the poems of my friend and poet Farid Bitar, as he wrote. It's an honor to have his poem in my magazine and webzine. So, in India too, there are cases of poets and writers who are being imprisoned in various ways. Recently, I think some of you might have heard about the poet Varvara Rao, and he was, he had been imprisoned for a long period of time. Recently, he died. Sorry, hello.
His name. Spell his name. The poet.
Yeah, his name is Varvara Rao. Varvara Rao. He's a Telugu poet. He's a Telugu poet. I think if you search in the Google, you can find out definitely. He died recently. He had
I'll
been.
Put it in chat, Mr. Das. Spell the name. I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, it says Varvara. Varvara.
Okay.
I'm typing.
Okay, I put it in. It's okay. I put it in for you.
Yeah, it's the title is Rao. Rao.
Yeah.
Rao.
Okay.
Yeah. It's
okay. Got it.
He's a Telugu poet.
Mm-hmm.
He's a Telugu poet, and you can get the details if somebody Googles it out. And recently he died, and he had been imprisoned several times, and probably he was. I think I forgot the age. Probably he was near about 75 years old when he died in the prison. And so these things are happening in this way or other in different corners of the world, probably not in the pathetic way as it is happening in Palestine. It is a great privilege for me that I am among you. I am present here among you all. So I thank you for the invitation.
Privilege for us to have you.
Yeah, I don't know whether I'm going to read out a poem. I don't know whether it will be relevant to the conditions going on there. So, one is it's a very small poem. The name is Hunger. It talks about the greed of. Greed can be explained in different ways. It's a small poem. The poem goes like this: Let there be a war before the feast. Let there be a war before the feast. Else what shall we eat? Let there be a war before the feast. Else what shall we eat? So, probably these things are going on in the minds of politicians who are preferring war in the country and with other countries. And another name of the poem is I'd like to read out another poem. It's a very small, not so big. The name of the poem is Dementia. Shall I? Shall I read? Yeah.
Yes, please. Yeah.
So our time shifts from one clock to another. The wrinkles in the face of the most celebrated figure, devoid of 18 sins, are similar to mine. The engraved ashes of pearls have healed me of dementia. I carry the memories of my previous births. If this truth pours fame-flavored lemonade into the Herculean horse of time-space, what's the harm? If the mango people discover an old pig-faced drunkard is lying in the drain, what's the harm? Here in every temple, the snake is forced to drink milk. The babies are taught to recite the myths of cows. After the sacred chorus, the spines of the cowards are being scattered in the name of Hari. I have the memories of my previous births. I had been born as a king, a farmer, as an insect, a snake charmer. I searched for the answer of the riddle in the pit full of mud. I still suck the melting sweet balls in quest of a nut. So here the poem ends.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Well, I want to thank everybody. By the way, who are you on iPhone?
Oh, my name is Darrell Knights. I'm a friend of Farid's. He invited me to the event.
Hi, where do you live? Where are you?
I live in Newark, New Jersey.
Oh, so you're across the river from me. I'm looking at you. I'm in the West Village. So okay.
Okay.
Hello, across the river.
And
Hey,
Darrell
Bill.
is wonderful. I
Yes,
love
what?
Darrell. He's a very good friend. Just a shout out. Thank you for being there.
Thank you for inviting me.
We have a wonderful group. Eugene, where are you from?
Originally, I'm from Harlem,
Okay. And where are you now?
Morningside Heights.
Okay, not too far away. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. And Salam Kadir, where are you?
He can't hear the microphone. He's just messaged me. He's trying to do the settings. He can't hear us, but he can see us. He's in Switzerland. He's an Iraqi artist.
And he's in Jordan or Iraq?
No, he's in Switzerland right now.
Oh, okay. All right.
He's our Iraqi storyteller heritage wisdom.
Okay, great.
Embodiment.
And Zayed Al-Najjar, where are you located?
Yes, I'm from Brooklyn in New York.
Oh, so you're close by too.
And Tom Cox, he's a friend of mine. He's the one that sent me the link.
Oh, you know Tom Cox, isn't he great? Yeah.
From me.
He's fabulous, great. And Steve Bloom, your neighbor in Brooklyn.
By the way, thank you, Farid, for the beautiful poem.
Yeah.
And I met Farid many times in Manhattan. I'm sure he will remember me, but I'm a friend of Mahmoud, your brother.
Oh, wow. Wonderful.
Yeah. Just say hi to him.
I've seen your name before. I don't know if from Facebook or something. Do you write?
I'm sorry?
Are you a writer yet? Because I've seen your name before.
Yes, yes.
Yes, I do remember you.
Thank you.
And George Wallace, where are you from?
Hello, I'm here from Long Island at the invitation of Farid. He asked me to drop by because the subject matter very interesting to me, because of a poem I read about peace is honey, which he liked very much and said might be interesting for you.
Can you read it for us?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Thank you. Where are you located now?
I'm in Huntington, Long Island.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here, George.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. I
Yeah,
learned a lot
to hear
today.
your poem.
Very powerful work and good to hear other people's voices. Peace is honey. Peace isn't the absence of war. It is sweet milk in a clean bucket. It is the bleating of goats in an honest man's yard. Peace is the honking of geese in a pond, cicadas chirping in the tall grass. Peace is olive presses, wine presses, harvesters clamoring for more fruit in the foothills of the lower Galilee. More than silence of dawn, with no rockets to disturb it. Peace is rooster crowing, hens clucking, plow points, shovels, and stiff rakes and hoes rattling in the back of a pickup truck. It is the buzz of harvest machines combing the harmonious land, horizon to horizon, feeding all the children, women, and men, all the children, women, and men without prejudice, giving all the people in the land full employ. Peace is Palestinian boys in the apiaries of Dura, west of Hebron, working their father's hives. It is a cloud of honeybees hovering over a rooftop of a kibbutz, Ayelet HaShahar. Peace is not just the absence of small arms fire or treaty signing ceremonies in faraway capitals. It is more than just who gets what, who loses what, and both sides having to agree to accept it. Peace is more than the absence of war. Peace is wild ducks splashing in the Jordan River. Peace is the shared laughter of workers in a field. Peace is honey and milk in the land of milk and honey.
I love this poem.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Oh, that's very deep. I love it.
Beautiful. Wow. Thank you so much.
George had asked me to send him a poem, if I may. And I'm like, I'm not your subject matter. And he goes, no, just we'll see what happens. So I sent him a poem called Handala. Is one of our caricaturist people, Handala, and he became very,
Handala,
very,
yeah.
very famous.
Of course, yeah.
George said, oh, I like this poem. It falls right into place. I'm like, what you talking about? He goes, no, I like it. I'm like, what? So he said, we'll put it in, he has a magazine coming out. And I'm like, whoa, I don't believe this. It's gonna, so he's honoring me and he's being here and I'm honoring him. And that poem is getting published actually later, not now, in a book. Handala, I wrote down just right off my head because of the subject matter is so like stupid and who's a Semite and who's not. So I wrote Handala on it.
Well, for me, there's poems that are specific and there's poems that reach to something large. And when they're able to bridge that to a specific subject, but to a larger vision, then those are the poems that really work. And I think that's why I responded to your poem the way I did.
Thank you.
That's what I try to achieve myself in my work, and I respect that in others.
We have to do this again, and with what I'd like to do is organize a whole session of poetry with a number of poets reading and maybe extend the time, because this has been so wonderful for me to hear this. Stephanie, where are you calling us from?
I'm from Queens, New York.
Queens, okay. You want to share a poem with us?
I do have a poem, and my ex-co-worker and friend, I call him Mr. Bitar because at work we call each other Ms. and Mr. And he helped me, encouraged me to have it copyrighted. It's my very first copyrighted poem. And do you know, it has absolutely nothing to do politically, but it has everything to do with a great, victory in my life where I overcame the stage 4 cancer diagnosis.
Wow.
And I wrote about it. It's called The Journey. And, you
Well,
know,
that does have something to do because the occupation is a cancer, and we need to look at the possibility of healing. So that struggle is very relevant. Can you share your poem with us?
I would like to. I just can't find it right now.
Okay. All right, for the next meeting, our next meeting. We'll do it our next meeting.
If I
Okay.
might say, I just want to say something about Stephanie, and now I can call her Stephanie. I think she's wonderful. Me and her know each other for many years, and I was always cautious talking to her, but on a poetic level, we were always no stop, no exclamation, no nothing. But I want to read a poem on George Wallace's piece, if I may.
Okay.
Jacqui, I can do that?
Sure, go ahead.
This is a lyrical poem called the Jerusalem Drum. Born in a land holy, but not to me. A land that knows no peace and always weeps. All city with walls, all city with halls, where the grass still grows on the marching army in an old city, a city I was born, and memories burn. Land of 1,000 eyes that never sleeps, always weeps in my veins, my childhood boy. Runs in the sand, my childhood boy runs in the sand, naked as a bird, free in my soul, above the earth, where the bombs explode. The Jerusalem Drum.
Wow.
I want to ask Stephanie a question.
Yes.
Stephanie, I am very close to somebody who has 3 types of cancer right now and is really fighting her way through it, and it's a very deep process, obviously. And I want to ask you, how did you do it? I'm a bit convinced that the doctors sometimes lay the medications on because of the expense of them. And I really don't know what to say because it's such a responsibility. Could I ask your advice?
Yes. And the answer to my question may not be an opinion of everybody. So I hope nobody gets offended by my.
You won.
Huh? I would tell you. Is that okay?
Yeah,
please.
Yes.
So we don't see you.
Can you see me now?
We can see you, but we can't see Kelvin.
Huh?
Yeah, we can see. We can see.
Oh, great. Well, it was a stage 4 cancer diagnosis, and I was not, I went to the best doctors money could buy, and even they had human limitations as to save my life. And they did not give me too good of news back in 2015. And they gave me only 60% chance to see year 2020, in fact. And so says the surgeon. The social worker told me even worse news and told me it was going to spread into my organs and I was going to die, and I would have to have be realistic. Be best if I would be realistic, she said. And so I said, no, I had hope in my heart. I want to, fight for my life. And so I had just made my mind after a great soul searching. I made up my mind I was going to fight this on all fronts, not just the medication from the doctor or the surgery, but I also did massive amount of research in how to eat healthy. So I eliminated a great deal of stuff from my life, such as bad sugar and all the sweets, and all regular food. I eat only organic food that has no chemicals in it. Here in the United States, everything is loaded with chemical seams, And so I started eating better like that. I also lost a lot of weight. I lost 55 pounds, which was very, significant. And then, I also was very, I did prepare. I prepared my own funeral. I had to do those things, all the stuff that goes along with this, including seeing the lawyer. So I had a whole list of things that I had to do. And the third time I was at the Memorial Sloan Kettering in Manhattan. I was sitting in the waiting room, and I was sitting waiting for my chemotherapy. And so I was just thinking in my head, going down the list of things that I was doing, and hope that I did everything. And I get to the bottom of the checklist, and I sat there and realized that I was not ready to meet my Savior, my God, the creator of everything. I wasn't ready to meet him. What was I going to say? Because, I went my own way in my life, And so, this is the personal part of it. I hope I don't offend anybody. But I decided right then and there, as in privacy of my chair, I just said a little prayer, and I gave my life to Jesus Christ. And I knew that was the right thing to do. And there, I knew, a year later, the surgeon said to me, you are in remission. And meaning the cancer they had seen, they kept, giving me radiology to watch to see if it was going into the organs, because it was all across the wall of my abdomen. They couldn't get it out, And so he said, I'm in remission because it wasn't moving. And that's great. So then my oncologist said to me, but on our records, we have listed you to officially be in remission from your very last chemotherapy. And a light bulb went off in my head, because it was that very day. That was my very last chemotherapy, was that day I gave my life to God, and because, they took me off chemo because I wasn't doing well on chemo, because I was sicker than I was better, And so that was, they have on my medical record, that very day I said that prayer. And I'll tell you, it's 5 years. Here's 2020. I got to see my 64th birthday in October. And I'm still in remission. And that's my story. And I wrote a poem. I wrote a poem about that. I wish I knew what this poem was, guys.
No, can we hear it? Oh,
she can't find it. So we're going to have a session again with poetry. So Stephanie, you look for
Stephanie, thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing that.
I'm going to pass that on to my friend, what you taught now.
Yeah.
Kelvin, unblock yourself. We don't see you.
Ah. Hi again to the facial recognition bot from the Google.
You're doing this on purpose.
Okay, Stephanie, thanks so much for sharing that. And we have to close, unfortunately.
Thank you, Stephanie.
We're over time, but yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for letting me share that. I appreciate it so much.
Listen, I am absolutely sure you will really hear what you said. She's very
and we want to hear that poem. So I'm going to blow out the light that I never got to light, my candlestick from Jerusalem, and blow that light into all of you to keep your creativity strong, and may you be a light in this world of darkness. And everything I've heard from everybody has been so inspiring. I'm in tears, to be honest.
Let's do it again.
In this messed up world. Thank God for each one of you. God bless you.
For you.
For each one of you. And we'll talk.
Thank you very much.
Have
Thanks, God.
a wonderful week, and we'll see you next Sunday, hopefully. If
Thank you,
anybody has a
Jackie.
good topic,
Have a nice weekend, everybody.
what next Sunday, I think we're going to have a friend of mine, Phil Hopper, who has done a book on graffiti in the West Bank, comparison with Ireland, with Irish graffiti from the Irish rebellion against oppression, occupation, and he did a study of their graffiti and also the graffiti in the West Bank. He spent many years living in Ramallah, working. So that will be a very interesting presentation. And then maybe the following week we can try to put another poetry thing together. But just keep in touch with me, okay? So that we can whatever ideas you might have for these sessions to bring enlightenment to people about Palestine, bring Palestine out of the darkness. Amen.
Thank you, Jackie.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
Farid.
Thank you, everyone.
Wonderful.
Bye.
Amazing. Lovely
Bye.
to see you.
You have a great day.